Legend Total War here, and today we're doing a tier list using Tier Maker, this time covering the tech trees that are available in Total War Warhammer 2. Now, there are 15 races currently in Warhammer 2, but there are actually 19 different tech trees. So there are some factions within certain races that have a completely different tech tree compared to the sort of standard one. Some notable examples are the Spirit of the Jungle. That's probably the biggest example. Their tech tree is nothing like all the other Lizardmen. All the other Lizardmen are pretty much identical, and the Hunts Martial Expedition is different from, just slightly different from Reichland. Dreika's tech tree has a couple extra points in it than the standard Wood Elf tree, and Rapunzel's tech tree is slightly different from the standard Britonian tech tree. But anyway, let's start with the High Elves and just work our way through them. So what I'm going to do here is I've got the game open. I'm going to just jump into new campaigns. Just do it on very hard campaign, just way it doesn't create an autosave. And just go through briefly what makes the tech tree good or bad. So in regard to how I'm going to rate this, it's a little bit tricky because every single tech tree is good. So even if a certain factions get into the D tier, what that simply means is their relative quality compared to the best ones. So don't think of it as, oh, that's a bad tech tree and you shouldn't actually research anything. There's no techs, I think, that are actually bad to research. This isn't Total War Attila. So it's just relative. Some tech trees are just way more vital to some factions than others. Anyway, with the High Elves, I'm going to be putting them at B tier, and just briefly explain exactly why that is. If we open up the tech tree here, so I think that with the High Elves, it's great that you can cheese their tech tree. They can probably get through their technologies the fastest, but what we're really looking for is, if you want to get into like the A or S tier, is technologies that actually change the way that their faction plays, not just provide minor boosts or boosts that just aren't really necessary. There's a lot of stuff in here that just isn't really that good. So you have to research something in order to unlock certain groups of technologies. And in the first group here, there's some stuff in here that's useful, like the extra melee defense for Loth and Seaguard, but there's nothing in here that's critical. Nothing that's going to really change the way that you play. In military advancements 2, precise fletching is very good. That's probably one of the best technologies for the High Elves. In military advancements 3, I think that broadhead arrows, providing extra ammunition and range. See, providing range in a technology is really useful, but a lot of these other ones in here are just not critical, just minor stat buffs. Like extra armor for certain units is just low priority. Armor's just, especially 10 armor, is just not a lot. It doesn't provide that much bonus. And then in military advancements 4, some of these ones here are fairly good. But the best one, I think, is Strength of Avalon. In cultural advancements, Waystone Network is definitely really good. Same with Court Advisors, really good, but you can get some of that stuff from other places. Spy Networks is total rubbish. Like Diplomatic Relations +5 is absolute nothing. Reducing construction costs on some of these things is good, but none of them essential. That one there can actually be a bit of a trick one to get, because sometimes discovering all sea regions means that you discover hostile factions and they actually just end up declaring war on you. So it's good eventually, but at the start of the campaign, maybe be a bit wary. In the trade good advancements, some of these are mundane, some of them really good, like marble stockpiles, reducing construction costs is really good. Healing salve, extra replenishment rate 5%, really good. Monthly festivals, +2 public order, good, but the High Elves have plenty of ways to get other public order. Bit of extra growth and income from ports. It's fairly good. It's fairly engagement. I think B tier is where it belongs. You can cheese that tech tree by recruiting lords at like rank 12 and putting points into Elven Scholar and then disbanding them. You can eventually get to a point where your research rate's like over 1,000%. If you watch my fairly recent High Elf campaign, you know that I was researching things in one turn. We had the entire tech tree done very early in that campaign. But none of the technologies, I think, are absolutely essential for the High Elves. They're all good, but not essential. So that's why I'm giving it a B tier there. So now we'll move on to Lizardmen. So let me just jump into a Hexawaddle campaign real quick, and I'll explain where I'm going to put them. So they've got a very meaty tech tree, loads and loads of techs, and some of them are really good, but most of the really good ones are at the end of the tech tree, and it takes ages to get there. Also, it's a lot harder to cheese their tech tree as compared to like the high elves. So I'm also gonna put their tech tree at B tier. Now going through it, that's still loading. Once we get through it, there are some really good technologies, but they're all at the back. Okay, here we go. It's finished loading. Like, there's loads and loads of technologies here, but a lot of the bonuses are just, like, pretty minor stat bonuses. Like, campaign movement range is really good, but, like, leadership +3, it's not that important. Income from post-battle loot +5%. A lot of this stuff is just really, like, low impact. Diplomatic relations +5 with high elves and lizardmen. Just a lot of low impact stuff. But once you finally get to the end here, you start seeing some really big bonuses. Lord Recruit rank +4, that's really good. Casualty replenishment rate 20%. That's such a huge impact. That makes it going into red territory much more viable for Lizardmen than... That's probably one of the biggest casualty replenishment rate technology boosts that any faction can get. You know, hero recruit rank, that's probably not needed because you could do that with the Star Chamber stuff. Global recruitment duration reduced by 1 turn for all units, that's pretty good. Global recruitment capacity, that's also really good. Income from mines and quarries, you know, these are some big... That one's shit. Like, 10 armor for Kroxigor and Sacred Kroxigors, that's just total garbage. Getting all the way to there to have such a crap tech, that's just garbage. Melee attack for Temple Guard. Like, Temple Guards are not great units, but giving them extra stats is, you know, useful. Reduced upkeep for those units, also pretty good. But yeah, they've just got a lot of, like, stuff in here, but none of it is, like, critical. I think B tier is kind of where it belongs, especially when you compare to certain factions that absolutely rely on their technologies. Now, the other thing to go through is the Spirit of the Jungle tech tree, which is completely different from the regular Lizardman one. And where we'd put that by comparison. Because their tech tree is absolutely critical for them. So it actually goes into the A tier. It provides way more substantial bonuses. There are fewer techs, but the techs that are provided are way better. Now, the thing is, the Spirit of the Jungle is arguably one of the weakest factions in the game. And so they need boosts wherever they can get it. Whereas other Lizardmen, they are not the weakest factions in the game. So some of them are actually really powerful, like, for example, the Cult of Sotek. And so you just don't rely that heavily on your tech tree. But because this faction here is so fucking weak, you absolutely need some of these technologies. So going through some of them, you know, providing Horde growth +2, that stuff's really quite useful. Lots of casualty replenishment rate stuff in here, like really early. There's some campaign movement range stuff. Where was that? Sequence of traversal. But it's not just like a linear tech tree that just move right through it as well. So you've got to sort of plan out your pathway. But some of these things in here are very useful, especially considering increasing army capacity. That's absolutely critical for this faction because they're limited in how many armies they can actually get. There isn't like an actual limit, which one of the things that actually makes this faction so goddamn weak overall. But some of the tech trees in here are just absolutely critical. They're not getting S tier just because they're just such a garbage faction in total. Like immunity to snow attrition is very useful as well. Just a lot of really good stuff in here. I'm not going to go through every little thing or else we're going to be here for bloody ages. And there's only a minimal amount of like just minor stat boost stuff like +3 leadership or whatever. So, you know, speed from cold one units, that's good and everything. But it's really the stuff that provides a lot of impact, like the army capacity, global recruitment. Diplomatic relations with men, high elves, and lizardmen is very good because you don't want them declaring war on you. However, there is a problem with Nakai's faction in that this provides diplomatic relations with you, but your vassal doesn't get that. So if you're let's just say that Reichland is aware of Defenders of the Great Plan, you might have plus 1,000 relations with them. And they'll just end up declaring war on your vassal, and then there's just nothing you can do about that. It's totally busted. It's one of the reasons that Nakai's faction is just totally fucking stupid, and is basically abandoned by Creative Assembly there. But yeah, terrible faction, but got a really good tech tree. If only their vassal actually benefited from it as well. Okay, moving on to the Dark Elves. They have an A tier tech tree because there's stuff in there that they absolutely need in the late campaign that really benefits them. So if we start going through that, just jump into it. Like I said, the big difference between the High Elf tech tree and the Dark Elf tech tree, the High Elves don't need any of their techs. They can go through the entire campaign without researching anything, and they'll be fine. But the Dark Elves have got some stuff in there that actually really help them by like a significant amount. Just waiting for it to load, and I'll showcase which technologies you really want to be going for, like very early on, that makes such a huge difference. Like these technologies drastically improve the Dark Elves. Okay, it's just about loaded.
Hail, dread.
So the ones that you really want to go for, the first one is Reworked Crossbows. Providing ammunition is great, but the range for Dark Shards, Black Art Corsairs, Shades, specifically with Shades and Dark Shards, that one there is one of the best technologies, not just for the Dark Elves, but in the game in general. Because Shades can have, there's like 3 different ways that you can boost their range. They go from having like 130 range to over 200 if you do everything right. So there's this technology, there's the tier 7 upgrade that's available in every Lord's skill tree, and then there's the Name of Power Shadow Dart. If you get all 3 of those, Shades have over 200 range and just become absolute killing machines. So without researching that, they obviously won't get to 200 range, so it's really, really useful. Unfortunately, no Legendary Lord can get the trait Shadow Dart, so this one here is really useful if you want to put Shades in your Legendary Lord armies. And then another one that's absolutely essential for Dark Elves is a Life of Dread, because that slave decline rate, you really want to try to make sure that your slaves stop getting killed off or escaping, and that technology there, along with other things, can eventually get you to 80% slave decline rate. So there's the building that you can build in the major province that'll reduce it by 50%. Then there's in Malika's skill tree, there's something that provides minus 15%, and then there's or is it 10%? And then there's Current Car has a landmark that'll reduce it by 5 or 10%. I can't remember exactly. But if you get all of those, you get the slave decline rate down to 15%, so that you only need 2 masters in each of your slave provinces to completely stop all decline rate, allowing you to just magnify your economy by perhaps even more than what the High Elves can do, at least in the earlier stages of the campaign, because you really want to keep those slaves going. And some of these technologies here have really substantial benefits for the Dark Elves. There's a lot of stuff in here that increases the amount of casualties captured post-battle. That's really good, because not only does it give you more slaves, but capturing more slaves also increases your replenishment rate after battle. So the Dark Elves are a race that are able to fight a battle, take a lot of casualties, and just about fully replenish after the battle, just because of how many things that they can do to increase their casualty capture rate. Now, in terms of cheesing their economy, that's a little bit difficult. In the later stages of the campaign, you can get the tech tree up a bit by leveling up your Black Arcs, because they get 10% research rate, and also by using wizards to secure technology, and also the wizard building will also increase tech tree. But you're not going to get the tech tree done anywhere near as fast as the High Elves. But there are, I think there's actually more technologies here than the High Elves, and they're much greater impacted. Also, these technologies here that provide bonuses to Black Arc growth is so useful, especially in the late campaign when you're recruiting new Black Arcs, because Black Arcs in the early stages of the campaign, they take a while to grow, but then in the later stages when you get new ones, they're way quicker at growing. They're getting more than one growth surplus every single turn, just because of the technologies that you've researched. It's a little bit expensive, but the Dark Elves are a very rich race, so you can certainly sort that out. But yeah, very good tech tree. Not quite an S tier one though. S tier ones are reserved for, like, you'll see which ones are S tier. Okay, so that's where the Dark Elves one. Now let's go into the Skaven one. So let me just pop up. Now, oh, hang on, wrong thing. If we go to Skaven faction, Clan Eshin actually has one technology that's different from the others. Well, they have one extra technology, but that technology is actually one of the only cases of a bad technology. So I kind of just omitted checking that. My recommendation with that one is just don't ever research it, because it increases your upkeep cost by like 10%. It's just a shit technology. Just don't research it. It's not worth it. It like gives you stat bonuses, but at the extra upkeep cost, just don't bother with it. Okay, so where are we going to put the Skaven? I'm going to put their tech at S tier, because they have one of the best tech trees in the game. It's got so many technologies, they provide huge bonuses, and you can cheese it. So let's explain exactly how to go about that. So, absolutely massive tech tree. Probably about the same number of techs as the Dark Elves. I'm not going to count them. But the impact on some of these is gigantic. So, anywhere where there's like a plan that needed, apart from these first ones here. So, Ruthless Plans, generating food passively is really good. But also getting food capacity. These are things that really open up late game opportunities for you. This is really awesome technologies. Things that you want to prioritize. There's quite a few technologies in there as well that are like just like a stat boost or whatever, but they're usually on the way to something really fucking good, right? So, you know, oppressive plans over here, food generated, food capacity, adding extra clan rats or whatever to the Vermintide. I don't think the Vermintide is a very good ability, but a lot of people do use it, and, you know, getting full stacks from that can be quite useful. So, here are the technologies that I think are the best, and that which you should go for first. The first thing you should go for is Monstrous Abominations, because once you've researched that technology, it's possible for you to get a follower called Hell Pit Attendant. You can't get that follower until you've researched that. And the thing is, once you've researched it, you'll just start getting them all the time. Like, you might end up getting 10 of them every turn, and you can put them on characters, on lords, and then just disband that lord, so that lord is providing extra research rate. So you can just end up with huge amounts of research rate really quickly, much similar to the High Elves, although I think the High Elves can get their tech tree done faster. I just think that the Skaven, their tech tree is a lot better. So there's a few things in here that provide public order, which the Skaven need more than the High Elves. Then there's promoted on merit. They need that Lord recruit rank. That is so essential. They've got enormous caches over here for huge amounts of extra ammunition for weapons team, which are really good. There's extra tax rate boost in here and growth plus 25. Local recruit rank, local recruit capacity and casualty replenishment. All of this stuff in here is just so bloody useful. Carve under tunnels. They really want that campaign movement range. Extra casualty replenishment rates. There's just so much good stuff in here. Where's the ambush? Yeah, ambush success chance plus 5%, which all of this stuff just benefits the Skaven so much. So much good shit in here, which is why it's at S tier. As the Skaven, you want to really prioritize just researching things as quickly as possible, because there's just so much good stuff in here. It doesn't necessarily change the way that they play, but it makes their way of playing, that's already very powerful, into incredibly powerful. So a really good Skaven player will get their technology tree done as quickly as possible, which is why I put it at S tier. Okay, next up on the menu is the Vampire Coast. Okay, so let me just get a campaign of that loaded, and I'll talk about the Vampire Coast tech tree. So all four of them have the exact same tech tree. Okay, there's some really good technologies in the Vampire Coast tech tree. I'm inclined to put that at A tier, because I don't consider the Vampire Coast as a faction or as a race particularly strong. The fact that they can't confederate with other legendary lords is a big downside for them. Their economy isn't particularly good, but they do have some stuff in here that that does give them some pretty significant boosts. Just waiting for it to load. And I'll just go through. They've also got some stuff in there that's absolutely total crap. But here are the ones that I think are really good. Right? So if we look at this, there's the Lord Recruit rank plus 5. That one there is particularly useful because, for one thing, it's being a huge bonus. You can get to it very quickly. You research that one first and you can get there quite quick. But being able to recruit rank really early allows you to fill up these officers. And these officers are really good, a lot of them at least. Not all of them. So that's probably the first one you want to prioritize. Then you've got reduced construction time, minus 35% for all buildings. Getting your stuff built faster is really bloody useful. These technologies here, giving yourself infamous or legendary admirals, these guys here are your primary, like, these are your replacement for legendary lords, because these guys here having shipbuilding just gives them huge amounts of bonuses, allowing them to sort of negate the supply line penalties, extra casualty replenishment rate, extra campaign movement range, being able to recruit from their ships. Just allow them to just be so much more versatile than other armies. And then you've got some significant boosts over here, such as recruit duration -1 for the Necrofex Colossus specifically. Now, if you're playing as Noctilus, since he already has -1 recruit time, you can recruit them essentially in one turn when playing as the Dreadfleet. Everyone else can just recruit them in 2 turns. So that's another one you want to prioritize fairly early on. Giving physical resistance 20% for Necrofex Colossus is really good, because that stacks with the technology here, Rotten Death. So you can get them to 30% physical resistance quite easily. So there's quite a few things in here that are quite good. But because the Vampire Coast isn't an amazing faction overall, they do kind of rely a bit heavily on their tech tree, but there's also some stuff in here that just isn't really that high impactful. Like getting certain followers. This is stuff that will only apply to one unit or one army. It's just not that impactful at all. But, you know, it's better than nothing. But I think one of the downsides to it is that some of these texts actually take quite a long time to research. I think these ones here take like 10 turns. So getting through the entire tech tree quickly can be very difficult to do, because there's not a lot you can do to sort of cheese the tech rate. But, you know, it's a good tech tree, and they do rely quite heavily on it. Not quite S tier, not like the Skaven one, where it's just like your entire campaign is sometimes focused around getting the techs done. Okay, after that, let's actually do Khemri next. Khemri, or Tomb Kings, is an S tier technology tree, because they need their tech tree more than anybody else. A lot of the techs aren't really that impressive, but they absolutely need it, right? Because there is a limit to how many armies, much in the same way with Spirit of the Jungle, there's a limit to how many armies that you can recruit, and getting those techs done is absolutely vital. But also, every time you get one of those technologies done, and we'll show it in a minute, it slows down your tech rate. Now, you can cheese your tech rate a little bit by certain defeat traits. If you're playing as Khemri or as Archon, the Black, you want to be getting Rapunzel's defeat trait as often as possible, because every time you beat her with a different lord, you'll gain 5% extra research rate. Defeating Ikaclaw for 10% is useful. Defeating what's his face over here? That goes in the book. Thorgrim Grudgebearer gets you 10%. So Ketep has a bit of a hard time because he's not close to any of them. But yeah, it's absolutely vital to get this stuff done. Like their campaign, especially the early parts of the campaign, is centered around just getting these technologies done. You know, you're limited with your numbers of heroes in this campaign, and one of the only ways you can increase it, and the main way that you can do it, is through the tech tree. So awakening new dynasties is just absolutely critical with them. You can, of course, do it with the new dynasty through here, but you'll get this done a lot more often than other ones, unless, of course, your tech rate goes down way too low. So you really want to make sure that that you're keeping your research rate. Every single settlement that you own does give you extra technology research rate. These technologies down here are fairly low impact, but these ones here have really high impact. But the main reason why it's at S tier is just because you cannot get through a Tomb King campaign if you don't focus on your technology properly. You've got to get these things done, and fairly early at that. If you let it fall out of control and get your research down to 5%, as we saw in a disaster campaign, it can absolutely ruin your campaign. So that's why it's at S tier there, because they just... Tomb Kings aren't one of the strongest races in the game, but they just rely so heavily on their tech tree. And it's a good and engaging tech tree that relies you to actually think about what you're doing, which I think is good. I think a lot of people actually enjoy the tech tree for it. Next up is Reichland, or the Empire. I'm actually going to put this at C tier, and I'll explain why. We'll jump in here. Because their tech tree just isn't really that good. If we have a look at the techs, it's just basic. It's just really, really basic, and a lot of the bonuses just aren't essential. But yeah, let's just get in here and have a quick look. Like, just thinking about some of the technology, I'd much rather show than tell. You just don't really need to get through a lot of their technologies, and some of them are stupid. Just like, they just put it in there for the sake of putting it in there, just stepping stones to get to the next thing.
The green skin.
Alright, let's go through the tech tree. So, the best one to get in the early game is obviously Tide 3 Baits. This one's pretty critical if you're playing on Legendary difficulty. You need the Public Order and Growth. This stuff over here is quite good, but, you know, paying 7,000 gold in the early stages of the campaign can be a bit much. The Elector Counts 1, you know, fealty threshold at which factions will trigger civil war and secessions. That's like, it's okay, it's not that great, but getting fealty of all Elector Counts +1, that's pretty good. The only problem with that, though, is if somebody's fealty is at 10, that actually does nothing. So you can't get their fealty to 11, and if their fealty ever drops down to 9, this technology is just forgotten about. So there's definitely some crap in this that just isn't really high impact. You've got Engineers Guild research rate plus 10%, right? That's actually a really shit technology, because that actually doesn't reduce any of the technology research rates by a single turn. Because in order to drop any of these technologies down by one turn, you need to increase your research rate by 20 to 40%. Because 10% will knock off one turn of a technology if the technology takes 10 turns. And there is no tech here that takes 10 turns to research. Right? See, that takes 5 turns to research there, and then it's an additional 7 turns there. So this one here only does something if you have it in conjunction with other research rate reductions. So it's just such a pointless technology. And for it to spend 7 turns to get it, it's just a giant pile of shit. That really, if it's going to be a research rate deduction, if you're going to research something to make other researchers quicker, it actually needs to make those researchers quicker. So I feel like it should either be done quicker, so that you can just move on to the other ones in here, which they're good, but just, like I said, it's a stepping stone technology. Or it should be something on the line of maybe 30, 40, or even 50%, because the impact of it is just kind of crap. So there's not a whole lot of technologies. There's probably one of the fewer number of techs in a tech tree, but some of these are just not that good. So the ones that are good, right? Construction cost minus 10% for all buildings, that's pretty good. Reducing construction time for all buildings, that's pretty good. But you can do that with noble heroes and lords, so you can already get your construction time down to 1 turn. You don't need that technology. Income from mines and gold mines, 15%. Yeah, that's fairly low impact. There's other people's tech trees are much higher than that. You know, recruitment duration time for steam tanks, that's great and everything. But a lot of the stuff here just has kind of low impact. You know, plus 5% speed in leadership infantry units, whatever. Melee defense plus 4. That's just not much, and that's all of the technologies for infantry. If you look at the Dwarfs technology, all the things that they can do for their infantry, that's just not very much. The cavalry stuff is just so low impact, like leadership plus 5, armor plus 10, that's crap. You know, charge bonus plus 10, that's just really low impact. Melee defense and melee attack plus 4 for cavalry units, it's just not much, you know. Vigor loss reduction, these are it's just low numbers of stuff. It's just a lot of garbage in here. It's definitely not D tier, but it's pretty close to it. You know, you've got ammunition plus 10%, which is good, don't get me wrong. Every tech tree provides bonuses, right? But when we had a look at the New World races, right, and they're increasing ammunition by 25, percent or 20%, and then you get 10% here, they're getting less than what other races are getting, especially considering the Empire is supposed to be a pretty advanced race. Their tech tree is actually not very advanced at all. It just has low impact. So that's why it went down to C tier. Now let's quickly go and have a look at what makes Marcus Wolfheart different, because in my opinion it's actually a slightly better tech tree. Because for one thing, he's a worse faction, so he kind of needs it a bit more, but he has some better technologies. If I was to rate his one, I'd actually put him at B tier. It's not that different. There's only a very slight difference, which I'll show, but it comes down to, instead of having a fealty mechanic, he has to deal with Imperial supply stuff. So he gets 4 techs, whereas in that particular category, whereas the other Empire factions only get 2. And the techs that Marcus Wolfheart get are much better than the 2 that Reichland get, in my opinion. So it's almost finished loading there.
Welcome.
So all of this is exactly the same, except for the hunting advances. So recruit rank +2 for all superior Imperial supply units, that's good. But Colonial Fort, +1 extra public order, and casualty replenishment rate +10%. That is really useful, and that's not something that the Empire gets. So getting that passive 10% replenishment rate means that Marcus Wolfheart is much better equipped at going at unpleasant regions than other Empire forces. Seabourn Logistics, reduced construction time for ports and construction costs, that's also really good. And receiving additional detachments of reinforcements with every Imperial supply delivery, that's also really useful. So that's the only real difference there, and I think that that's sort of brings Marcus Wolfheart a little bit further up, but everything else is exactly the same. Okay, next up is the Dwarfs. I'm going to put the Dwarf tech tree at A tier. So, let's jump into a Dwarf campaign and have a look at their tech tree. I think they've got the most number of technologies out of any race in the game. Like, it takes absolutely forever to get through their tech tree. And you can cheese it, but usually cheese it much later on in the campaign. Just because I'll explain why. It's just that the High Elves can do it a lot faster than the Dwarfs can do their cheeses. Just waiting for it to load, and some of the Dwarf techs are absolutely critical, and just have a lot of impact. A lot of the technologies have next to no impact, but yeah, we'll just go through it for the most part. But yeah, there's probably the most number of technologies out of anyone in here. Just so many. But yeah, the usual way to go, if you want to do a good job in the campaign, is to go down the growth one straight away, to get to growth +10 straight away. And then there's one over here. So you want to get the heavy kernstones for +10, because the dwarves grow really slowly, so they really need that +10. It doesn't seem like a lot, +10, but considering their growth rate is, so bad, they really do need it. And then you've got Autonomy of the Holds, which provides an additional 15 growth, because that's a commandment that you're really going to want to make use of. They've got some bonuses in here for extra public order, which again you're really going to want to make use of. So over here, diplomatic relations with other dwarfs, really handy because you want to get those confederations. Alright, they've got some pretty high impact stuff in here. So storage vaults, getting +10 leadership when under siege and siege hold that time. That's really useful for the dwarves because they are going to be under siege a lot. This basically makes a lot of their units unbreakable. So really, really handy technology there. Whereas with other races, like if you're playing as High Elves, leadership +10 when under siege. High Elves very rarely, if you're a competent player, even come under siege, and they don't need leadership anywhere near as much as the dwarves do, because their forces absolutely need to fight to the death. And they've just got loads and loads of stuff in here that's just providing tons of bonuses. And the way to like cheese their tech tree is basically the same way as the High Elves do it. You need to get your Lord recruitment rank up, which they're able to get their recruit rank up at tier 4 when they build this building. Of course, the High Elves will get to tier 5 before the Dwarfs can get to tier 4, but getting Lord recruit rank +1 faction-wide, getting that built a few times so that you can recruit Lords at rank 12. You can recruit and disband them just getting Inquiring Mind, and eventually you'll just absolutely blaze right through the tech tree here. There's also some really important stuff in here for like casualty replenishment rate, which the dwarves absolutely need because they tend to take a lot of casualties over time. But I think the thing is with the dwarf tech tree is that a lot of them, it's just tiny increments, but the dwarves really need those tiny increments. And some of these bonuses here provide bonuses to their entire faction's roster, and provide a once you add them all up, quite a significant boost for the dwarfs. But on paper, each individual one doesn't seem like that much. Like, there we go. Extra ammunition for dwarf missile infantry units, right? Compared to the Empire one, which was only 10%. Yeah, just a lot of, just loads and loads of tech trees. But it is fairly basic. It just, go through it, whichever pathway you want to go. Which is why I didn't get to S tier. Didn't get S tier, that's going in the book. Anyway, Next up is the greenskins. If it was pre-patch, they would have been a D tier one, but sorry, pre-greenskin rework. But their current one, I reckon, is A tier. So let's jump into a greenskin campaign, and I'll showcase what makes them so great. They can get through their tech tree pretty quickly, even without technology boosts, because I don't think there's any way to really get their research rate going very quickly. They just don't have that many tech in there, and a lot of their techs can be done in one turn, but also a lot of them have extremely high impact, whereas the dwarf one, they've got lots of little tech trees that you can eventually get through them very quickly. These ones are the tech tree that we get through each tech fairly slowly, but they have massive impact. Do you guys remember the original greenskin tech tree? It was so bad. All it did was unlock roster stuff. It didn't actually provide many stat boosts at all. Okay, so their tech tree, it's got about the same number of techs as probably the Empire one, but the impact of them is so huge. So Healy mushrooms, casualty replenishment rate plus 10% is really good, and you can get that pretty damn quickly. You've got reduced construction costs in here. There's tons of stuff in here for like that one there. Campaign movement rate plus 10%. This is really good. There's tons of stuff in here that boosts gobos, like multiple things. Things in here that only take one turn and only require like a certain resource, whether it be money or scrap, which is not too difficult to get loads of scrap. You've got essentially legendary lords that are obtained through their tech tree as well, and these, especially Rachnik's Spiderclaw. Rachnik's really bloody good. You've got global recruitment duration minus 1 turn for all units, really bloody useful. The greenskins are a faction that can get loads and loads of global recruit slots through this building here. Is it this one? No. Yeah, global recruitment capacity plus 1. So building the tier 4 Shaman's Hovel, building that everywhere, you can eventually get to the maximum, which is 30 global recruit slots. And you can just like pump out armies like absolute crazy. Scrap compactor here, which just gives you passively scrap per turn, giving you extra reputation per turn, so you can get lots of wars going if you really want to. Unlocking scrap upgrades, so not only does it provide significant boosts, but actually providing unlockables throughout the campaign. Some of these things in here, untainted faction-wide, very good. Whereas Lord Recruit rank plus 5, that is really bloody good. Because you want to be able to recruit your Great Goblin Shamans as high rank as possible, and the greenskins can eventually get them to be recruit ranked very, very quickly. But yeah, loads of good stuff in here, which is why it's going to A tier, but not 100% essential. Diplomatic relations plus 10 with all factions, that's a bit useless. Nobody likes greenskins, so plus 10 isn't going to make much of a difference. So yeah, greenskins go up to A tier. Okay, next up is the vampire counts. Now, this is a bit of a weird one, because the vampire counts, if we jump into one campaign here, they have only one technology that is worth anything, right? Everything else in their tech tree is shit. So that one tech is like S tier for them. But because everything else just doesn't provide much impact, I'm going to put them at B tier, right? So just wait for it to load up. They're carried by just one of their technologies. Because they've got so much stuff in their tech tree that's just total garbage. Just unnecessary. So the only technology that truly matters in a vampire count campaign is Defiler of the Ancient Barrows. Getting reduced upkeep cost for skeleton warriors and skeleton spearmen is arguably the best technology in the game, period, regardless of any faction, because this makes them such an overpowered race, especially in the beginning of the campaign. Just being able to pump out so many armies early, because you don't need to worry about supply lines because your armies are free anyway, is really good. But a lot of the other technologies in here are just total rubbish. Just providing, like, basic bonuses, right? That's actually fairly good, because they do come under siege and fight the siege a fair bit. And leadership's very important for them. Campaign movement range over here is pretty good. Getting the odd blood kiss in here is pretty good. This tech tree here is probably the best out of them, aside from that one there, because it provides pretty substantial bonuses, growth bonuses, income from cities. They actually make tons of money from their cities, so income increases from that's really useful. Hero recruit rank, diplomatic relations with all factions useless. Vampiric corruption, osmosis is very good. That's whatever you like. Blood knives, it's great, but you know it's polishing a turd, in my opinion. Same thing with that one there, just low impact. Hero recruit rank for vampires and necromancers is good, although you can already get huge increases to necromancer recruit rank through buildings. Income from forbidden libraries and necromancer towers 30% is also pretty good. This tech tree over here is rubbish. These have just next to no impact, but that's kind of why they've got a B tier research rate. They definitely need their technology. I mean, you can win their campaign quite easily without getting that one, but they've just got such a mixed tech tree where some of their techs are awesome, and some of them are just utter fucking rubbish. So that's why it's a B tier. Just you know, you can get through all their important technologies by like turn 40, and then after that, I just don't even bother with their tech tree. It just doesn't matter anymore. All right, the next one is Norsken tech tree. Now, Norska is the most rubbish race in the game currently. They have just such huge problems. But their tech tree is S tier. It's engaging, it forces you to go out into the world to go and do stuff, and the rewards are incredibly substantial, so providing huge amount of really useful bonuses that actually help keep Norska alive. So, going through them... Because, yeah, they absolutely need these technologies, especially if you're playing on very hard or legendary because of the supply line problems that they suffer. If you're playing on easy difficulty, you don't need to worry about it, but, yeah, whatever. So, yeah, going through their tech tree. These ones here don't matter that much, but there are some good ones in here that will, you know, reduce the recruitment time for mammoth units, for example. That's pretty useful. But as you start to get through here, campaign movement range is very useful. As we start to get to here, these are the technologies that really matter, and they force you to go out into the world and conquer these settlements, right? So these Marauders of the East, West, and New World, right? Providing public order is very good for Norska because their outposts tend to not have much chaos corruption to begin with, so you're going to want them to have some sort of buffer. You know, income from trade plus 500%. Not that you're going to be trading with many people, and that's only for tariffs, but at the same thing, growth plus 25%. Huge bonus. Tilia here. This is when fighting against Tilia, but then you get research rate and reduced upkeep cost 15% for all units. That is such a fantastic technology. Ravaging of the Dwarfs. Usually the precursor one, the one before actually obtaining the settlement, is not that big of an impact. Just helps you fight against the Dwarves a little bit. But then when you actually get this one here, it's such a gigantic bonus. Reduced construction costs, really handy, and also income from all buildings plus 50%. Basically, 50% bonus to all of your income. So useful to get that. And they absolutely need every coin that they can get. But reducing upkeep cost is more impactful for Norska. Then over here, the Empire one, magic resistance for all units, weapon strength for all units, 25%. Just gigantic bonus. So 25% extra weapon strength for a melee focused faction, all units. So whether it's a Marauder unit, a Lord, or a Mammoth, 25% weapon strength. Just fucking gigantic. You know, Vampire count one here. Casualty replenishment rate plus 20%. That one's actually not really needed because they've actually got tons of replenishment bonuses, but it's still pretty good. Winds of Magic plus 20. They get access to knowledgeable, so not essential, but immune to climate, sea corruption, and storm is very good. Then you get the Dark Elf stuff over here. Makes all of your heroes immortal, so you don't need to get them to level 20. Income from raiding. Norska is one of the few races in the game that benefit from raiding because it doesn't require any movement to go into raid stance. So if you don't reach the settlement that you're going to, as long as you didn't go into force march, you go into raid stance and get 50% extra income. You can actually make shitloads of money from raiding with Norska, so that is actually very handy. With the High Elves, missile strength plus 15% is not particularly useful. Hero action success chance plus 25% is, however. Then you've got, you know, physical resistance for Marauder units. That's really good for your garrisons. And also Lord Recruit rank plus 5, also really handy. Reducing upkeep costs for certain units. They absolutely need that. Campaign movement range plus 20%. That's really bloody good. Fire resistance over here. So what's this for Tomb Kings? This makes all of your lords immortal as well, so that's really handy. You want to keep them alive. An additional weapon strength in here. So with that, you've got 40% weapon strength, so that if you take the Awakening, and also income from post-battle loot, because they do have to rely very heavily on that. This is why they get an S tier, because these technologies force you to play Norsken the way that they're intended, and provide you with really tangible benefits and rewards for doing it. Unfortunately, even when you do all this stuff here, Norsken is such a rubbish faction. Even if you do succeed with all this stuff here, it doesn't change the fact that they're still just a piece of shit race. But their tech tree helps them immensely, which is why I got an S tier ranking. Next up, we've got Britonia. I'm going to put Britonia at A tier because they've got a really good tech tree, and I'll go through it. Rapunzel has a slightly different one because with Lewin Leoncoeur, Alberic, and the Fey Enchantress, you can use the tech to immediately confederate the other Britonian factions, whereas Rapunzel just gets something different that provides relations with them. So she can still confederate them diplomatically quite easily, but just can't do it instantly using chivalry. So just waiting for this to load. But I really do like the Britonia tech tree. It's got a lot of good stuff in there. They don't need it. It's not essential like it is with like the Tomb Kings, for example. But yeah, just going through some of them. You know, you've got growth plus 4 over here. Britonia is arguably the highest growth faction in the game because their main buildings provide just absolutely tons of growth. And also their windmill building provides growth in adjacent provinces, so they just get tons of growth. So that one there doesn't provide much impact, but it moves towards other ones that do. You know, moving towards charity, getting the control plus 2 is very useful, especially playing on legendary difficulty. But yeah, these ones over here, getting extra relations with other factions, it's very important for Britonians not to piss everybody off and get good trade agreements, and just they're a very diplomatic faction. You know, the only people that truly hate them are the evil factions or the disorder factions, and you've got stuff in here that makes them hate you even more, but that doesn't really matter, but provides you with really tangible bonuses when dealing with them, like reduced vampire count attrition, increased leadership when fighting against the Grand Vampire accounts. You know, Green Tide is definitely one that you're going to want, and you get 2 of them in there. Providing you with more chivalry for every time you get a victory against them is very good. Just loads of bonuses here against all the people that you're actually going to fight, so that's really useful here. And you know, the Skaven one specifically, extra untainted faction wide, so that's quite useful even if you're not fighting Skaven. And then these ones here, you get the option to confederate with them, where you could spend money or chivalry, or just get a huge diplomatic bonus with them so that you can diplomatically confederate them later. All of these are really bloody good. And then over here, there's just loads of good stuff in here. Each of your regions can sustain an additional peasant unit. That's very useful in the early game when you really do need the peasants, but late campaign it's not really needed. And there's just some, you know, reduced construction time and cost for Britonian stable units. You're definitely going to want to be building onto that. Just some really high impact stuff in here that I think really engages you to actually utilize their tech tree and boost their faction quite significantly. You know, the whole bribing and trying to bullshit a faction to confederate you like the Dark Elves kind of have to do. The Britonians just don't need to worry about that. They unite very quickly. And it's just sort of a natural progression with them, and you just do it whenever you feel like doing it. So I think it's a good tech tree, not S tier worthy, but I think A tier worthy because it's a good engaging tech tree. Okay, now checking with Rapunzel's ones, just looking at the difference that she provides. Now, unlike with the
I will never.
the other factions that are different from their racial one, I think Rapunzel's is actually not quite as good. So I'm actually going to put hers at B tier because she's not able to just instantly confederate those other factions, which is really a lot of the strength of the regular Britonian ones. But we'll have a look at what is different with hers. It's not that much. But I don't think her tech tree is quite as impactful as the regular Britonian ones. So, going through it. So, these are the main ones here that change. Everything else is exactly the same. there's obviously fewer here as well. She's just not as diplomatic as the other Britonian factions, right? So you've got some good bonuses in here for sure, but nothing that's going to instantly confederate the other ones. Like, that is one that she gets that the others don't get, and that is very high impactful. You know what? Lord Recruit Rank +5 and Hero Recruit Rank +5 is very good. I think that, and it's really not that difficult to confederate the other Britonians diplomatically. I think I will put her back at A tier, because even though it's not quite the same, it's strong, but in a different way, which is, I think, the way to go about it. But it's still pretty much just as engaging. So yeah, that's the only difference with Rapunzel. I just wanted to make that distinction with her, because it is a little bit different from other Britonians. Next up, we've got Wood Elves. So this is a bit of a weird one. So let's just jump into a Wood Elf campaign, because in my opinion, their tech tree, while it has probably the smallest number of actual techs out of any race in the game, with maybe the Beastmen as an only exception, their update kind of nerfed them in some areas, but boosted them in others. It made them stronger on the battlefield, but weaker on the campaign map. And I feel like being stronger on the campaign map is actually more important, but that largely depends on your personal preferences. Some people don't care if their campaign mechanics are weak. But that's something that I personally care about more than battle mechanics, because I think that just at a base level, the Wood Elves are one of the strongest races in the game on the battlefield. So boosting them further is great and everything, but not what they needed. Using Amber to research these ones here, that's definitely engaging, gives you an incentive to actually go and do those rituals of restoration. I think that the top layer here is better than the bottom layer, because the bottom layer here gives you bonuses with Dark Elves, and even if you do all of those, Dark Elves are just pricks and will probably still declare war on you anyway, whereas High Elves, they're pricks as well, but you can negotiate with High Elves, so you can be friendly with them if you research this stuff here. It also gives you bonuses to like High Magic and Life Magic, which is more useful, I think, than the sort of darker magics like Beasts and Shadows and Dark Magic. But yeah, the stuff in here that just used to be a lot better, like campaign movement range +5%, that's great and everything. Diplomatic relations with +20 with Britonia, it used to be like +40. They used to have one that provided bonuses to the Empire as well, and to Dwarfs, and they just don't have that anymore. So it's still a good tech tree, but I feel like it used to be a lot stronger, even when it had fewer techs in it. You've got this one here that you get sight over all of the forests, but that means that they might declare war on you, and it even warns you about that as well. It's just not a particularly high impact, or necessarily even a good technology. So in terms of the Wood Elf one, I'm probably going to put it at, I'm leaning to put it at B tier, just because all the boosts that they get, they don't need, and the boosts that they need, they don't get, but they used to get. Now with Dreika, there's only a very small difference with her, but we'll go in and have a quick look. There's 2 extra Amber bonuses, but I think I'm not entirely sure because I don't play enough Vortex. Enough Wood Elves to remember this by heart. I think she can't actually research all of her Amber techs, but the other Wood Elves can, because she's got 2 extra techs, but she only gets 1 extra Amber because she starts off with 1. So just wait for that to load. But the 2 techs that she gets are pretty impactful. But I'm pretty much inclined to put it at the exact same spot with her. Her tech tree is a little bit better, so I think I'll put her at B tier. Just a tiny little bit better. Alright, so if we go through it, she gets Wisdom of the Wildwood, which provides physical resistance for units that, is unique to her faction, so there's no sense in other factions getting it. And also the passive ability, Murder of Spites for Malevolent Treatment unit. That's very good, so that's a very high impact ability. And then Wisdom of this one here. That's meh. So that's usually one that I probably wouldn't prioritize. I just don't really care that much about giving Deathblow for Dryads, Treekin, and Treeman units. Well, I mean, I do use Treeman units, but it only applies once they're at less than 20% health. But that's the only difference. Apart from that, it's exactly the same. Dreika's campaign's a bit weirder than the other Wood Elves because she can't confederate anyone except for Durthu. Okay, next up are Beastmantectory. All of the Beastmantects trees are the same, so it's one size fits all, so we'll just go to Casserack there. Now, they've arguably got the smallest tech tree now, so their original tech tree sucked, and this new one is maybe smaller, but has higher impact. But if I was going to put it anywhere, they don't really need it, so I'm probably going to put it at B tier. Because the Beastmen are just a super strong right from the get-go now, and they get a lot of their bonuses through Dread as opposed to Tech. Or, as it's called, Challenges to the Dark God, but, you know, it's just another way of saying Tech. It's just, I guess it's understandable. You don't want to call smelly goat people, you know, technologically advanced. So, not a whole lot of techs in here. I think this one here is still bugged. It can be bugged. It can actually, if you go over the amount, it'll just never be unlockable, but it doesn't have a high impact. There's some good stuff in here, like Winds of Magic cost reduction, 10% for all of your Laws of Magic is really good. Winds of Magic Power Reserve, really good. Campaign movement range, it's good. It's good stuff in here. These are significant bonuses. You just don't really... That one there actually has very low impact. You might think Dread gain from battles plus 20% is really high, but I think that the way that you actually gain Dread is kind of deceptive, because there's like a base amount of Dread that you get from any battle, and I think that's what is applied. The amount of Dread that you get from actually killing units, there's basically two amounts of Dread that you get. You get a base amount just from winning any battles, like 20 or something, and then there's the amount that you get from killing, which depends on how many units that they have. And this Dread only applies to that base amount, so you'll get this and it'll give you like 2 extra Dread per battle, regardless of how big the battle is. So I think it's something along those lines. It's not that much. I don't have the maths completely correct, but I just don't think the impact of that is particularly high. Guardian for that, you know, that's okay. There's one in here somewhere that provides ambush success chance, which is really good for Beastmen, much like the Skaven, because they have their stalk stance. There's one in here, missile resistance for Gorgon and Giant units. It's the only faction that actually can make Giants kind of useful. But some of the stuff in here is just not essential, which, you know, that one there is pretty good. Passive ability, regeneration for Chaos Spawn and Jabba Slice units, that is very good. But, you know, armor plus 10 for Minotaurs, pretty low impact. A lot of this stuff in here is just minor stat boosts. You know what, having a look at it, I'm just not seeing any real great use of it. I'm going to put it down to C tier. The thing is with the Beastmen is that they just don't need their tech tree. You know, you've got so much good shit in here. This kind of counts towards their tech as well, because this provides a lot of bonuses. However, this isn't their tech tree. So if you were including that, then it's probably like S tier, because this provides huge bonuses. But just judging this alone, I think it's probably C tier. Alright, let's move on to the last faction. And the one with the worst tech tree. So, Warriors of Chaos, right? That's right, Warriors of Chaos are getting the D tier tech tree, because their tech tree, it just is the most boring garbage in the game. There's some stuff in there that does have some high impact, but my god, it's just a crap tech tree in general. Creative Assembly with this DLC, they missed the mark so much. Luckily, Warriors of Chaos, I think, is getting an update in Game 3. They need it. Norsken needs it more, but at least Norsken's kind of got some fun, engaging mechanics, whereas Chaos is the most bland faction in the game. They have no campaign mechanics, right? And so their tech tree, the only techs that actually matter is like the Path to Ruination, these ones here, Horde Growth and Replenishment. These are the only ones that truly matter. All of this other shit in here is trivial garbage, with the exception of maybe that one there, Casualty Replenishment and Campaign Movement Range. Even giving stats to like Dragon Ogres, they just don't need it, right? Their utility is what makes them strong, not their stats. So all of this fucking crap in here is just... Well, I guess income from raising settlements is good, I guess. But I think that this one here is definitely the worst of the tech trees. It's just a boring tech tree. Really, really boring tech tree that doesn't really engage with the players. You just do it because you have to do it. And And, you know, you do have to pay a pretty significant price for that. It's just a shit tech tree all around. But that being said, you still should utilize it. As I was saying before, oh, I forgot to make this one. Oh, I just do it now. It's really simple. I just do it at the end of the... Oh, shit, hang on. I usually do it a different color scheme because people are like, how could the red one be S? There you go. I do it at the end of the video. That's a good call. But anyway, that's my tier list on the tech tree. So the best tech trees belong to Skaven, Khemri, to Tomb Kings, and Norsken, and the worst ones are actually Empire, Wood Elves, Beastmen, and Warriors of Chaos. Where these ones here, they're all good tech trees in their own ways. But yeah, these are the standout ones, and the absolute falling behind ones. I just don't think the Empire one's very good either. Anyway, that's the end of this one here. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this list, whether you agree or disagree with any of these choices. I just want to point out as well that every single tech in the game is worth researching, with like 1 or 2 exceptions. So it's not like, oh, you should just never use the Warriors of Chaos tech tree. It's just that they have the most boring, mundane, you know, linear tech tree that just doesn't engage with the player and doesn't provide any, you know, like really significant new play styles at all. It's just stuff that you just got to do. And only a few of the techs are actually worth doing, and you have to pay a high price for it, so it's just not very good. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time, fuckers. Bye.